This is the all-new Peugeot E-3008, a car that uses a new platform for the brand, which brings a lot of new features, not least a very impressive long electric car range and also a lovely interior. Oh yeah, and check out the design. There is a lot to talk about on this car, so let's get to it. Now, it's definitely worth starting by looking at this car's design because obviously many buyers are going to be drawn to it versus those rivals for the way it looks. Now, at the front, you're going to see some familiar Peugeot features, not least these claw marks here for the lights here. Now, they're familiar from Peugeots for a few years now, but now they're getting really angular to go with these nice angular headlights as well. I have to say, I think it looks excellent, by the way, especially around here. Slightly controversially, Peugeot have retained a grille on this electric model, but it isn't really a grille. It's just a pure design feature, so it doesn't open up or do anything, not as far as I can tell anyway. It's definitely blocked up in there. So it's there just to keep it looking in line with those other models from the range and also from the 3008 range. I think we can all agree at the front, it looks pretty unique, doesn't it? But then you come down the side, and on this car, we've got big 20-inch wheels, yet they're still wrapped in chunky tires here. I can see they are Pilot Sport 4 SUV tires, which means I think they can do a bit of off-roading, but clearly this is a road-focused car. And you can see the aerodynamic design to the alloy here. It's got a really flat face here to help with your aero, but they've not gone completely aero with it because there are some quite obvious design features. So they look pretty nice, actually. Let us know what you think, though, because they're definitely different to the norm these days. And then as you'll see around here, we've got a lot of chunky features. It's very SUV-like. Spotted a little aero lip here. I don't know what it does, but it probably helps the top of the range model that's coming out later to get its 430 odd mile range. Now, if you follow me down the side of the car, you'll see that, yes, it's big, but it has a sort of a slimming effect thanks to this roofline here, and especially the way that there is a sort of a chrome or a matte chrome lip that runs along the top of the car. Now, that's inspired by a concept that came before the last generation 3008, so it's good to see design coming through generations, even if not immediately so. And that, I think, helps to slim what is actually quite a thick side of a car. There's a slab of door here, but actually it looks quite taut, and that's going to appeal to buyers in this class because, of course, this is an SUV coupe design, and of course people have always sacrificed a bit of space in order to get that swoopy roofline, and you definitely have a swoopy roofline here, topped off with a nice spoiler. And then at the background here, you'll see there's almost nods to other models in Peugeot's current lineup. The 408, for example, that has a nice little lip on the back here, and this wears it very well, I think. It helps to give the back end a bit of a sportier look, as I've said, but you're definitely aware of the size of this thing as well. And of course, you've got some Peugeot nods here. There's a lot of Peugeot on the back of it. Big E to emphasize this is the electric model. But design-wise, looks all right, doesn't it? As for the inside of the car, well, it's definitely clear that the design focus remains. I think this, even just having been in the car for a few seconds, I can tell is going to be a car people will choose purely because of the way it looks, and that's true inside as well. Now, this obviously being a new platform means you've got the latest in Peugeot technology, and the new bit I can spot straight away is this big wide screen ahead of me here, which is split into two parts. You've got your instrument cluster here, which is not a touch screen, but you can control it using buttons. But then this section here is a touch screen in the traditional sense, and actually it responds, as far as I can see, really quickly. It is genuinely smartphone quick. You've got some shortcuts as well down here, which again are touch buttons, but you've got 2 pages of them. And then the shortcuts have their own shortcuts. So for example, if you get in the car and somebody, when you switched it off last, had set your temperature to 25 or something hot, and you wanted it at your default temperature, you just press and hold the button and you can save it to have that as a shortcut. And same for navigation, shortcut it to home if you want. So there's a few clever cues in there that mean this complicated looking setup can actually be quite simple, even if you do have to use the digital screen for your climate control. I wish they retained buttons, but small problem there. There are, of course, also buttons, and these are new ones on the steering wheel and also down here. Now, these are on a rotary switch, so they're all connected as a solid piece of plastic, but when you press them, the whole thing moves. They're not haptic, thankfully, so you shouldn't have any of those accidental button presses that you get in other cars. Volkswagen's last generation button setup definitely did a lot of that. But you've also still got quite a clean steering wheel. I like Peugeot's smaller wheels, even if I have to admit, they do sometimes block the view of the instrument cluster for me, but if you learn to set it slightly lower than you would normally, it is a comfortable place to sit this, and having that small wheel makes this big car feel a little bit more agile on the road, I assume. It's certainly true for other Peugeots. As for the materials and the fit and finish in here, I mean, it's a pre-production car, but it feels solid, and I mean, the materials are really nice. The mix is good. Some of the stuff is not super high-end, but it's certainly nice, and it doesn't feel anything less than the price bracket would suggest. And you've got loads of functionality, of course. This is a medium-sized SUV, so you've got a decent amount of headroom, especially if you have the seat set nice and low. And then you've got good storage space as well. You've got a couple of cup holders down here. You've got space for your phone up here and wireless charging as well. And then if you press this button here, you actually reveal more storage space down here, which is quite deep. You've got a 12-volt plug down there, a couple of USB-Cs, and then you've got this really deep storage down here, which is also cooled. So I've got aircon on at the moment. I can feel it's really cold in there. You can definitely get a leg of lamb in there if you're not vegetarian. Seats as well are lovely. I do really like Peugeot's design, and I need to stop banging on so much about the design because I know people like functionality, but come on, if you are going to sit in this car in a showroom and think, do I want this or one of those more sensible cars, this is a lovely place to sit, isn't it? Should we see if that's true in the back? Because as an SUV, the passengers in the rear are almost as important as the ones in the front. Now, in the back, it feels pretty nice, actually. I have to say, there is a slightly different mix of materials here. You've got these nice fabrics here, but then these plastics are a little bit scratchier. You had softer ones up front, although the design actually still looks really nice. And the fact that you've got a two-tone on this car helps to just keep that theme alive, even in the back seat here. First things I've noticed are that I've got really good headroom, despite the roofline being nice and swoopy on this car. So above me, I've got tons of space, and I've got good space to the left of me as well. Seats are comfortable, nice, firm and supportive cushioning. It's just a good place to sit in the back, and your knee and foot room as well isn't too bad. I mean, it's not acres of space, but I can get my feet under the seat ahead, and I've got decent knee room here because the seat is pinched at the back. So as a four-seater, it's comfortable, and especially so if you pull down the armrest here where you've got a couple of cup holders as well. And of course, since this back bench can be split into three, you've also got a ski hatch here, so you could have your skis through there or whatever long things you want to store, or you can reach your crisps mid-journey and keep the kids happy. As for the middle seat, now, because this car is using a new platform, which is always intended to have an electric variant, it means you don't have a tunnel running through the floor. There's a slight lip there, but it's like tiny. And even in the bigger battery variant, this is obviously the smaller battery, even in the bigger battery variant, you only lose, I'm told, 15 millimeters in space. So that's lifted very slightly. That's the thickness of a carpet. So you're probably not going to notice that. But in this model, I can tell you that the space is fine. I mean, I can't put my legs completely together because of the slab here from the tunnel for the armrest for the passengers up front. But I've got a couple of vents right in front of me, so it's not all lost. And also I can fit my feet comfortably down there in these wells. So it's a bit snug as a five-seater, and I can tell definitely your shoulders would be a bit snug, but it's okay. This is definitely a natural four-seater that's very comfortable as that, with space for five if you need it. Let's check out the boot though, because with that swoopy roofline, it might not be the biggest in the world. Now, because of that roofline, you would expect there to be a slightly compromised amount of space, certainly vertically. And yeah, that is true. Of course, you've got this line here, so if you wanted to put, I don't know, a Christmas tree vertically in the back of this thing, you might struggle. But of course, you've got a bit of length space, which we'll show you a bit more in a second. But this is a surprise, given it's a battery car. We've got a load of space underfloor here. Now, you've got some space here. It looks like there's a space for a spare wheel, but Peugeot won't actually give you a spare wheel as an option. You'd have to go to a dealer, I think, to get one. So for almost everyone, that's always going to be empty and usable room under there, which is an advantage, of course, of this new platform. Now, this floor can fit a couple of levels as well, but if you have it up here, it is actually in a decent setting if you're loading heavy items. So it's got a nice protected aeroplastic here, and then it's completely flat onto the floor after that. So if you're carrying flat pack furniture, for example, it should be pretty easy to load it up in here. But of course, if you need more room, you can also lower the three sections of the seats ahead to open this thing up. So while not the most practical car, it's definitely not the worst. Although if you do want a bit more boot space, Peugeot tells me just wait for the 5008, which will kind of look like this, but have a taller boot. There we go. So that's the Peugeot E-3008 up close and personal. Of course, we haven't driven the car yet, but on first impressions, I think the design of this thing is going to help it really stand out. That's kind of true for all the new Peugeots at the moment, isn't it? They're doing a very good job. But in this class, especially with the swoopy line, design is always going to be a big priority for buyers. Let me know if you disagree with that, but I reckon, especially when it comes to your company car buyers who probably aren't going to be too dedicated on looking at the prices compared to rivals up close, well, this thing is going to stand out easily. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the subscribe button, and of course, like the video as well. We'll be back with more cars, some of which will actually be on the road. See you soon.